Good morning, California exporters. We're delighted to start our webinar today on the California Online Global Program. Welcome, and let's get started right away. We are just waiting for the last registrants to log on, but in the meantime, let's get started with a bit of housekeeping just while we're waiting for the last of the attendees to log on here. So during this webinar, that's actually one of a series of webinars, and we have a lot of assets that you can look through about the online world and selling online. This webinar now will be about 45 minutes long. We've left time at the end for questions, and we would really appreciate that you drop us any questions you have. Just put them in the little question or chat box that you have, and questions will be created at the end of the webinar. During the webinar, there will also be 3 polls. This is when we're asking you to get your mouse and click on it and make sure that you're answering what suits best. This is really a great way for us to tailor the webinar and make sure we're responding to your needs. We're going to have some handouts during the webinar as well. We produced and curated a few that we thought might interest you in particular, since California exports an awful lot to both China and Mexico. We included the Chinese and Mexican online infographics for you to take away from this webinar. And we've also included an infographic about global social media trends. Finally, at the end of this webinar, there is a very, very, very brief survey. I mean, it's 30 seconds long. Please fill it out. It just really helps us to know what your needs are, where you're looking for further information, and helps us design products that suit that. So then finally, just know that you will receive a recording and the slide deck of this webinar on Friday. That means you can sit back and enjoy the webinar. Don't have to take notes, just think about things as it's going ahead, and you can listen back to the webinar and go back to the slide deck on Friday when it be sent to your email. Right, with that, I'm now going to introduce myself. My name is Susanna Hardy. I'm there on the left-hand side of your page, and I'm the Chief Content Officer at a company called IBT Online. And I'm joined today with my colleague Samantha Sofici, the Online Business Development Manager for IBT, who looks after California. And Samantha is half Argentinian, half American, and is an expert in online marketing and has a background in marketing and in sales. And has worked for IBT for a couple of years now, and is there and available for you in California to answer any questions you might have about your websites. I've been with IBT for many years, and I'm actually based in the UK office, but my background is actually more in finance and sales, but I am responsible for content for our clients as well as for ourselves. Now, what about a brief word on IBT itself? IBT Online, IBT stands for International Business and Technologies, and we've been around since 2002. We have worked, actually it's about 500 companies now. We really are very, very focused on what we do. We're a private company, a US company, although we have subsidiary offices in Europe and a couple of other places as well, like Far East. And we are 100% focused on companies that export and helping those companies to get online tools and to use online tools to be found internationally, to be understood internationally, and to do business internationally. So that means basically, in a nutshell, we build websites that are export websites, and we help them then with international online marketing as well. So that's us, and we are very happy to be joined today as well. And we'd really like a big shout out to Jeff Williamson, who organized this webinar and asked us to come in. We're really, really pleased with that. Jeff, if you'd like to just join us and say hello.
Yes, thank you very much, Susanna and Samantha. And welcome to everybody who's joined the webinar this morning. You know, we embarked on doing this a few years ago because quite frankly, everybody's gone online, whether it's B2B or B2C. And one of the challenges is understanding this new channel, how to build awareness, how to generate interest and encourage people to, try your products and services, but doing that in a way that you're reaching, a much broader audience abroad as opposed to just simply echoing your message here in the US. So part of it's about extending that message abroad, localizing it so that it gets some texture and some ability to reach a larger audience in your target markets. So you want to hit the forward on that, Susanna? So anyway, the California State Trade Expansion Program we really have three goals. One is, and they're very broadly defined, one is to help small businesses who aren't exporting, help them get into exporting, and also to help companies that are currently exporting expand into new markets and help companies explore significant new trade opportunities, which we believe this seminar is one of those. Services we offer really two primary services through the STEP program. That's what I call it, the STEP program. And those are, we sponsor exhibitions at trade shows, and we also organize trade missions to select markets. And the second thing we do is we provide funding for qualified small businesses to engage in their own export promotion activity. In other words, these are events or trade missions or trade shows that are not part of our regular lineup, but might be more interesting for your firm. So hit the next one, please. Okay. All right. So in this whole e-commerce arena, we have not only working through IBT to do your own direct global marketing, we also have been working with a number of platforms, and those are quite viable opportunities, not only for selling in market, but also cross-border sales. Those include the companies listed there, JD, Cola, Lazada, Alibaba, Tmall, etc. So essentially what we see are being some of the sort of success factors are already selling online in the US, and also having products where it's easy to communicate the benefits. In other words, you don't need a huge educational effort to get the customers to understand what the product is and how to use it. So these are typical categories: health and beauty products, electronics, apparel, specialty foods, etc. are the B2C. Now B2B could be virtually anything. Okay, and then the last slide to move along. Okay, so we have a website which is californiaexport.org, and you can click on the events. One thing I want to point out is that we do provide resources for companies to localize or globalize their websites, and which could be used towards IBT services or other vendors of your choice. And the opportunity that I'd like to point out is we have what's called the individual company export promotion. You'll see a link on our website to that. This is a competitive process whereby companies will need to register, but also submit an executive summary of what they would like to do with the money that they would request from STEP. And that window for those applications will open on April 1st. So that's just around the corner. So bookmark that, and that can be a resource as you start to develop your online presence globally. Thank you, Susanna, and thank you, everybody, and I'll remain on the line to follow the seminar and answer questions at the end.
Thanks very much, Jeff. And right, we're going to get right on to our main core topic today, about what is website localization and how companies can benefit from the Online Global Program for California. But before that, I want to launch our very first poll. This is just to make sure you're all up there, awake, and ready to engage. So here you go, this little poll. Has your company, have you ever used the California STEP program to date? Have you used it successfully over many years, or just occasionally? Are you thinking about it? And let me give you a little bit of feedback about it's about evenly split, about 1/3 successfully over many years, 1/3 occasionally, and 1/3 thinking about it. So there you go. That's terrific. Thank you very, very much indeed. Right, I'm going to close that poll and now move on to our core agenda. We decided, Samantha and I decided to sort of split this into sections. We're going to talk about sort of the online world in a general sense, about how, why we think California exporters need international websites. Now, what is, and then we want to say, what do we mean by website localization? What exactly is that? Then we're going to drill down into how exporters use international websites, and then finally talk about the California Online Global Program, the details of that. As I said, we've left some time at the end for questions, and would love to see some of those responses. So let's get started on the online world of opportunities for California exporters. And we were just looking at the huge range of countries and amount spent by California exporters, and where you're all exporting to. And it's really so diverse. California is one of the top exporting states of the USA. And as you can see, you guys export to over 190 countries. I actually had to look up how many countries there were in the world, because I thought there was about 190. So basically, you guys export globally. You're already doing that. And you are very export oriented already. So this is a great market then to make sure that you have an online presence. And when we were looking at some of this, this is actually comes from the U.S. Commercial Services. We see this quite often on their presentations. They always say, okay, well, exporters are, to export is a good thing, because the world's purchasing power, the majority of the world's purchasing power, and the majority of the economic growth that we see in the future are outside of the USA. And this very much applies to the online world as well. Now, as you can see here on the slide, out of 7.6 billion people in the world today, over 4 billion, and in fact, it's closer to 4.5 billion now in January 2019, are online. So, over 50%, well over 50% of the world is online. And when these guys, Hootsuite and We Are Social, the guys who produce these this data, when they measure online, they mean on a regular, separate level. So that means that over 4 billion people have individual access on a regular basis to the internet and therefore use it. So there's, it's really, really a very strong percentage. And of course, what are they doing? I mean, 3/4 of them are using social media. So social media penetration rate in the world is over 40%. And that's obviously been driven by smartphones, so the mobile world. And if we just drill down for a second, just at this big picture level, we drill down and say, where are they in the sort of social media, and in terms of the population, it really is, it is absolutely clear. It is a very mobile market. It is a growing market, and it's a social media dominated market as well. So that's sort of the big pictures of some of the digital world. I wanted also to leave you with a final sort of big picture slide, just in terms of the growth rates. We talked about, January 2019, 4.5 billion people on the planet using the internet regularly. It is still growing above 5% in 2019. And social media is growing at double-digit figures. So these are continuing to be strong inflection points, strong movers. The internet, if you look at your life and you say, wow, I am just inundated with the internet. I've got my mobile phone, my iPad, my kids are on it all the time. I'm doing business on it all the time. The world is like that too. Whether you're sitting in Jakarta or Sao Paulo or Dusseldorf, you're online as well. What has this meant for business? I don't want to spend too much time on it, so I really I love this picture because I think it sums it up very well. The internet has forced companies to really put the customer, client, at the center. The client has control over a lot of the information if they choose it. So the client can now access information on you and can talk to clients, other customers, other competitors, find out more about you. And it's clear that prospective buyers want to find out about you. They want to know more about who they're buying from. And that is particularly the case in export markets where your brand awareness might not be as strong as it is in your local California market. So it is the digital world is a customer-centric and also a market-specific world. As a company, if you're in sales and marketing, your job is to try and influence and interject on some of those customer-to-customer arrows, some of those inflection points there, and showing those diagrams, either on the diagram there, customer-to-customer in particular, and really make sure that those customer-to-customers know you exist and are saying good things about you. And that is all about sort of how you can get better lead generation, better brand awareness, and that applies to B2B, B2C, and so on. So in terms, for our point of view, exporters need international websites because the world is online. You need to be online too. So it's not just the USA that's online, the world is online, which also means that your clients, your prospects, but probably your employees, your distributors, your in-market partners, your competitors, they're all online too. So don't hamper yourself. Get online, get found, be understood, do business through your localized websites. And now I'm actually going to launch poll number 2, which is, do you have localized websites for your export markets? Do you already have them? Do you use them for your main export markets or just a very few export markets, or are you thinking about them? And hopefully, given the subject matter, you're thinking about them. I can tell you that it's pretty evenly split again, with about 1/3 saying that you use them for pretty well all your main export markets, 1/3 thinking about for only a few export markets, and 1/3 still thinking about it now. Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to close that poll. Thank you for answering that way. That helps us drive the webinar better. And now I'm going to talk about website localization. What is it? What do we mean by it? And I think one of the simplest ways, the most concise way I have of explaining that is to go back to some of the basics of the internet and talk about search engines. Now, you all know Google. Google is probably your dominant search engine. So when you go on the internet, you go on Google to try and find things. You Google things. This basically what a search engine does is it organizes all that information, all that stuff, all that info, data that is on the internet. It organizes it into packets, into lines, into verticals, and then it ranks them and says, this is important, that's not important for that particular searcher. So you sitting in California, you're going onto google.com, well, most likely, and Google knows where you are. It knows that you are sitting in California and that most likely the most relevant answers to your search are near you and are in US websites and are in English. If I'm sitting in Germany, I'm going on to google.de, Google Germany. It's in German. I know that's, no surprise, but it's in German. My search is in German. Google knows I'm sitting in Germany, I'm searching in German, and they will give me German responses. And they will give me German responses that are most relevant for me. Let me give you a silly little example. So I happen to love shoes. So I'm sitting in the UK, I type in red shoes. On the right-hand side of your screen, you've got google.co.uk. That's my search engine sitting in London. Red shoes, I get Debenhams, House of Fraser, Zalando, M&S, Sadler's, blah, blah, blah. California, google.com. I go red shoes. I get Macy's, Zappos, Nordstrom, Wikipedia, GSW, so on. So, it's a very different search. And that's for a B2C product, for a very general product. It's the same for a B2B. It's the same for services. Google search engine, think of it as lots of different search engines. And that's, I think, the best way I can explain it. The other point that web people talk about is sort of optimization. That's part of of localization. Here's a good example of optimizing. When you're looking at keyword research, what term does someone use in a local market? In California, you say pants. In London, I say trousers. This is very different. So if your website doesn't have the right word, you will not get people searching for that word. You will not get good hits. An example here between Brazil and Portuguese, it's the same language as Portuguese. If you are on Google in Portugal and are looking for the word train, you'll put in the word comboio. If you're in Brazil and you're looking for the word train or anything train related, you will look for the word trem. Same search engine, both Google. Same language, Portuguese. Different keyword. Therefore, also different Google ad campaigns, different structure of the website. Okay, that's an example of optimizing your website to make sure you're using the right keywords. Here's another quick example: car. Car in Spanish. If you're in Spain, it's coche. If you're in most of South America, including Mexico, it's auto. Again, if you have a website, if you're designing a website for the Mexican market, you need to make sure that you're using the correct keywords. And that, again, is part of localizing your website. Here's a list of the 10 top criteria that we take as a localized website. You can see that fully adapted to local language is one of 10 criteria. There's a lot that goes into localizing a website. You've got to have the right content management system. That's the software that websites sit on. You have to register your domain name, your .de if you're doing a German website, your .nz if you're going for New Zealand. You need to register that domain name. You have to have multilingual navigation. It has to be good for a mobile phone. It has to be hosted locally. All of those aspects go into localizing a website. Just a very, very quick word now on social media, because social media also is extremely localized. Even though you can see from this map, Facebook is by far the world dominant leader in overall market share across the world, with the big exception of Russia and China, and especially China. Nevertheless, Facebook, lots of different Facebooks. And if you're going to go to China, you don't want Facebook. So, again, social media, just like what I was saying about search engines and the internet, is client-centric, market-specific. If you go onto YouTube, just like Google, I said was, 190 different Googles. Well, YouTube is like 76 different types of YouTube. It's a very different YouTube experience if you're in Argentina than if you are in Japan. It's a very different YouTube. Same thing for Facebook. Again, available in over 100 languages. And you also have to obviously understand which one you want to use for which market. I mean, I've chosen those two examples. I could have done WeChat, Baizu, for China, or Yandex for Russia. So again, there are different platforms for each market. But I want to stick closer to our webinar topic of today. This is going to lead me to my third poll, which is obviously, do you actively use social media in marketing for your export markets? Is this something that you're doing already now? Do you do it domestically but not internationally? Are you thinking about it? Do you do it domestically in a few little export markets, or do you do it for domestically in all your export markets? Just to give you there's quite a few people who haven't voted. Okay, you're voting now. Some of you are voting now. Enough votes have come in. There's a few of you who do it domestically and all main export markets, but the vast majority are doing it domestically but not internationally. And some of you are thinking and otherwise thinking closely about it. Thank you very much for that interaction. There's a really interesting results there, and I'm glad to see that some of you are really active in it, and even if you're not yet there on the international markets, that you're thinking about it as well. Now let's talk about how exporters actually use localized websites. What do we mean? Now we've defined what a localized website is. How do they use them? Well, best in class, ta-da, is Apple. Not exactly a small, medium-sized company, but Apple has over 132 international websites. Those are just the websites that they have, all of them localized for just the Apple. That's not just for iPhones and iPads, watches, TVs, and so on. So this is, Apple has taken this to an extreme limit here. But what's really interesting on Apple, just like Airbnb or Lyft and Uber and other types of unicorn companies, these are companies that grasped the internet early on and built the internet into their business model in order to grow very quickly and to expand internationally very quickly, and understood that websites have to be localized, that the experience has to be localized in order for the buyer to feel the trust needed for that buyer's journey. So there are two basic types of websites, though. There's this sort of standalone website like an Apple website, it just stands on its own and you can interact with it. Or there's sort of e-commerce enabled localized websites. And here I'm just going to give a very brief summary, just also because it was mentioned by Jeff at the beginning in terms of what's available for California exporters. E-commerce enabled websites, they're basically three different kinds that we would argue exist in the world. The first is when you have an e-commerce enabled website via your distributor or via a distributor platform. Let's say you're an electronics company, you have an in-market partner for Germany, and you're selling via their website. That would be a distributor platform. The second type is build your own. There's lots of things that you can buy them off the shelf. BigCommerce, PrestaShop, these plugins. You gotta be a little bit techy, but it's not too bad. And the third, probably the most common for the small, medium-sized companies, is the online marketplaces. Amazon, Alibaba, and then some of the ones that Lazada, all the ones that Jeff was mentioning earlier. For our point of view, there's a lot of different types of marketplaces out there that you could depending on, again, the choice of the marketplace may well depend on where you think you've got the best chance of having a strong return. But from our point of view, whether you're choosing a distributor platform like this, or an Amazon or whatever, or a specific or specialist site, in each case, you would benefit from having your own localized website. If you look at some of these examples, for example, on the right-hand side, both the generalist and a specialist site, you will have a lot of your competitors and other companies based on that same site. So, Amazon, for example, you'll be cheek by jowl next to your competitors, and it does tend to drive down prices. If you had your own localized website in that market, you could click out of Amazon onto your localized website and enjoy a more captive audience using Amazon or Alibaba or whatever as a fulfillment and logistics platform. If you'd like more information on that, very happy to drill down and spend more time on that. Let's see. I think I just want to sort of conclude and give you a summary though. Whatever your route to market is, whether it is a standalone localized website, which is used by you, created by you, owned by you, that you allow your distributor to use when they're negotiating, when they're prospecting, when they're getting new leads for you, or whether you have an e-commerce enabled localized website. Whichever the case, if you have a localized website in that market, you will be able to be found and understood better. You will inspire more trust, have better visibility, and more relevance to that market with a localized website. Let's look at some concrete examples. This is a US company, an SME, a small, medium-sized company. They're based in the Michigan, I think. They're not a very high-tech company. They make basically paper cutters and have been making them for over 100 years. There's little brand awareness in the paper cutter industry. One of the challenges they have is that they have multiple distributors in each market. They sell paper cutters to florists, food processors, retail, art supply, schools, governments, all kinds of things. So they may well have several distributors in each market. Having a localized website in their core export market, starting with, they started in fact with the UK and Germany and have added on every year through the equivalent of their California Online Global Program. They've just added 2 more markets every year. It's been a really successful program for them. Having the localized website allows them to consolidate all their information for all their distributors in one place. It means there's an equality between the distributors. No distributors arguing, hey, I didn't get that brochure. You made a brochure for them, not for us. The other thing it allows them to do is look for new distributors. This is a site they can put out social media contacts. They can use it as a springboard for identifying new distributors in each of those markets. And the third thing it allows them to do, because they've recently added an e-commerce plugin, it allows them to have visibility on their end clients as well. So it's been a really great step change for them, allowing them to work very efficiently with local distributors, in-market partners, and find new market partners as well. This company here is also a US company. It's a SME. They make very technical products for a very specific market. They make for the avionics market. They have in-market agents. They'll have, for example, one per guy in China, and his job is to talk to the big Chinese airlines and say, what about this ASG product? And they had a real epiphany when they got a Chinese website. It's just a small one. It's the same as the equivalent of your California Online Global Program. And we're able to show the Chinese airline, look, we've got this great new website. The Chinese airline then said, I finally really understand what you're doing, first of all. 2, I am very impressed that you understand and care enough about the Chinese market to have a China website. Put it round the other way. If a Chinese company came to the US and wanted to do business with, Delta and American Airlines and so on, would they just say, look at our Chinese website? Or would they make the effort to have a US website? And I think you would agree, they would make the effort to have a Chinese website. So again, this is a company that has added some markets year on year on the online global program. They've added 2 markets a year, and they now have a global presence for this. I would also encourage you at any time, go onto our website, IBT Online, and there's a whole string of testimonials. Click on them, and you'll have not me talking about this, but our clients talking about the experience and their experience and what they did and what they chose. So that's also a very good thing. So there's a picture of Hugo, the CEO of ASG. Click on the testimonial, and you'll have him talking as well. This next company is a bit of a larger company, again, an American company. Their task, what they wanted was to drive leads to their in-market partners. Their in-market partners were great at fulfillment and after sales, all that, but needed to have brand recognition and needed to have leads generated. So their websites were created in order to do that. And again, they decided on some of their key export markets, Mexico, India, Australia, France, and so on, and have just driven that through the local markets, through the local websites, using a lot of engagement, a lot of marketing campaigns and social media, but most of all through search engine optimization. And what I talked about earlier, those keywords and those keyword research, that's so important for that. Again, we have quite a long testimonial on our website if you'd like to be interested in that. This is a company that I wanted to highlight as well because they have some e-commerce enablement in a market that's hard. Brazil is a tough market. It has a lot of regulation. The e-commerce market is booming, but it's complicated. There's a lot of red tape. They were really not getting anywhere in terms of their product because they're very, very specific, very, very niche products with little awareness, so it has a lot of education to do for the marketplace, and they're able to do that via their website. The Brazilians are not, the Brazilian engineers that they're faced with are not always keen. They don't always instinctively go onto US websites. They don't. Brazil's a big market. They go to their local Brazil market. They go to Google, 95% market share in Brazil. You go to Google, Google Brazil. And so now they can see VaporPin in Brazil and buy online as well with them. So just to highlight that. So again, just to reiterate, please, I don't have time during this webinar, but please do go on our website and you'll see a whole bunch of different company profiles that you can click on and see, okay, that's the kind of profile that's similar to us. I can relate to that. Those are the choices they made. That's interesting. So, do spend the time if that's of interest in order to see what other companies have done for localized websites in order to be found and be understood and then do business in their local market. So just in conclusion, whatever your route to market, in order to be found, be understood, and do business, localized websites. Now let's talk about the California Online Global Program and how you as a Californian company can engage and get some of that as well. So we've designed this sort of California Online Global Program. There's it's both on our website, on Jeff's, and we'll give you coordinates of where to of how to get in touch at the end of the webinar. But in essence, it tries to allow you in a very clear, defined, procedural way of how to get starter websites. And we've designed this with option A. Option A gives you 2 localized websites in any 2 markets that you want. And the localized websites, as I said, are those 10 big criteria of what defines a localized website. And then we go through a whole process, a very well mapped out, very clear, procedural, and transparent route using software where you have access to all and you can see it all at the same time, and to build these websites. Each website has 12 web pages, which are totally localized, totally well translated, with the images that correspond to the local markets. It is totally secure. compliant, and optimized. So you get 2 fantastic sites in whichever markets you want. Cost is $12,000. The value of that is $12,000. And if any one of you have ever done websites, you'll know that that is a very good price for 2 websites. And the CITD has in a very innovative and gracious way, offered to have a reimbursable grant of $3,000 for that as well. So the cost to you is actually only $9,000. We would really recommend that you take advantage of this very innovative program from the Open to California exporters. So that's the option A for the 2-market expansion program of the California Online Global Program. Option B really is just a customized or customizable version of that. If you say, in fact, I don't want 2 websites, I want 1 website, and it's got to be 25 pages long, and it has to have this bell and that whistle. It has to have, a space for my distributor. It has to be e-commerce enabled, or whatever it is. We can deal with that, and the pricing and budget is very transparent to you. It just really depends on the number of pages and which sort of functionalities you're choosing. But again, in each case, you could be eligible for a reimbursable $3,000 grant from the CITD. So there you have it, option A and option B for the California Online Global Program. Once that's in place, you may also be interested in international online marketing. And that's, again, about ongoing search engine optimization, social media marketing, content management, editing, and so on. That's harking back to those slides I showed you about Facebook, about YouTube, but also if you're looking at other markets, it might be other platforms, whether it's an Instagram or a WeChat or Weibo or whatever. So if you want to talk about that, we're happy to. So that sort of brings us back to the whole social media marketing as well. Brings us just in time for our question time and things. And I'm very happy now to spend some time answering questions that you've put in to the question box. We have, in fact, as well, before I forget here, we got a few questions in advance, so I'm going to answer those as well. The first question we have is just I think a pretty straightforward one, which is domain names. How do we get domain names, and what are the different domain names? Domain names are basically the .com, or what we're talking here about is the top level domain names. That's your name. That's how people search for you on the different websites. So different countries have different geographic letters after them. So in the UK, a domain name would be, for example, www.ibt.company.co.uk. In Japan, it's company.jp. We are able to buy these for you in all markets, including in China, where it's not always so easy, including in markets where it's not easy at all, like Brazil, like Saudi Arabia, and so on. So we can buy these for you, and then we sell them directly to you at price. So it's a total transaction. In that sense, the domain name is one of the very first things we would do with website localization, is to make sure that you own your online real estate. And that's how you should think of it. It's your online real estate. The second question we got in, which kind of relates to that, is who owns the website if you build it? We build it, you own it. We might be buying that domain name. We'll sell it directly onto you, and you own that website, whether it's in Russia, in Saudi, in the Netherlands, wherever it is, you own it. And I think it's really important. One of the first things I would think that you should do if you are looking to have international websites is decide which markets are most important for you, not just this year, but on the longer term. and then see if you can't go and buy those domain names. That's a good tip for you. You do not want those domain names to be given to someone else, be bought by someone else. You certainly don't want those domain names to be given over, handed over to your distributors. Don't give away your online real estate. Once your distributor owns that, what happens if you ever fall out with your distributor? He then owns the website and he owns your domain name. It then becomes very complicated to buy that back. I've got a couple more questions in here. This is an interesting one. What about compliance, GDPR for European websites? That's, I think, a brilliant question. GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, in California is well on the good side of the curve on this one, came into force. It's mandatory in all of Europe in May 2018. And a lot of other countries are looking at it too. Japan, Canada, Colombia, Australia, India are all looking at data protection regulation. It is a complex area. We have a lot of things that we can share with you on GDPR, but just know that in the California Online Global Program, any website that we build for you in Europe, any European website, will be fully GDPR compliant. So you will have, and we will walk you through a full cookie policy, privacy policy, impressum, which means authorship, as well as giving you help on the other aspects of GDPR, which is controller and processor agreements. So that will save you a lot of legal fees, I can tell you. So all websites are fully compliant, and for European websites, that means fully GDPR compliant for you that we build for you. Here's a question that I like a lot. How large should an exporter website be? I think that's great. It really depends, obviously, on how many products, what your exposure is in that market. But I think you could turn the question around. You could say, how small can we get away with? You do not have to have a huge website if you're starting out in the market or if you're starting out on the web. You can take something much more manageable. And that's why we decided on those 12 key pages for the California Online Global Program. The 12 pages define the basic things that you need. You don't need more than that. That's not quite a microsite, but it's a small website. It's manageable, both in terms of content and in terms of making sure it all works, and in terms of updating. So the California Online Global Program gives you a 12-page website, which is, we think, and in our experience, the right size for you to be starting out with in a market. If you say, no, but I need more for products, for brochures, for downloadables, for e-commerce, fine, that's a different story. But if you're starting out, 12 pages is a great size for a localized website. I think one of the last questions we have is, what about most common mistakes? What are the most common mistakes we see companies making when they go online for the first time? I think there's two. The first is that there's not enough work done in terms of deciding what you need the website for. Is it for brand awareness? Is it for lead generation? Is it to support distributors? Is it because you need product awareness? That kind of, once you just, it can be for all of those things, but what's the order of priority? Once you decide that order of priority, that decides and dictates what kind of content, what kind of images, what are your action points after you create the website. So once your website is launched, what are you going to do with it? And how will that website look? That's going to be decided on your basic priorities for what that website is going to achieve. So you list them out, sit around, brainstorm, sit out and say, what's the main thing that website has to do? And that that function can change over time. You can say in 2019, that website has to have brand awareness. In 2020, it really should be generating leads. That's fine. That's a very logical progression. So I think the most common mistake we have is a lack of understanding of what a website needs to do. What are the priorities you want to make with your website? Right. I have two questions which are pretty well the same question. Next steps. How do I start? Is the question that I'm being asked by two of you here. Basically, the simple one is just get in touch. Get in touch with Jeff. Get in touch with your trade assistant managers. Reach out to Jeff or to one of us, Samantha or myself, at IBT, and we'll get you in touch with Jeff and through the STEP program. Make sure that you're involved in the STEP program, that you have that you're eligible for the reimbursable grants, and get you started on the California Online Global Program. So I've kept it under an hour. I did say 45 minutes. I've gone to 50, but it's under an hour. So I would really, really hope that you do fill out the survey, which just takes a few seconds after I close the webinar now. And it just remains for me to say thank you all. Thank you, Jeff, very much for letting us talk to you all about localized websites. I hope that we've been of use. I hope it's been of interest. I hope California exporters take advantage of this very innovative and generous offer, and that you all benefit from getting a fantastic online presence. Happy exporting, and we'll see you online. Happy exporting to you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Bye-bye.